Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to day 24 of Quran in a year plus, where we learn to look at the world and live life according to the lens of the Quran. Today we're going to be looking at verses 222 to 230 from Surah Baqara. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ويسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذى فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن فإذا تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. O Prophet, your companions ask you about the menses. Say in reply to them that both the man and the woman should be careful of its harm. Do not approach them for intercourse until the blood stops and they have cleaned themselves by taking a bath. If the blood has stopped and they have cleaned themselves, then you may have intercourse with them through the front passage in the manner that Allah has permitted for you. Allah loves those who frequently repent from their sins and are extra mindful of cleanliness. نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أنى شئتم وقدموا لأنفسكم واتقوا الله واعلموا أنكم ملاقوه وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Your wives are a place to sow your seed. They produce children for you. So approach them through the front passage, from whichever direction and whichever manner you wish. Send forth something good for yourselves, such as having intimacy with the intention of gaining closeness to Allah and with the hope of pious children. Be mindful of Allah by fulfilling His instructions and avoiding His prohibitions, such as those relating to women. Know that you are to meet Him on the Day of Judgment and will have to stand before Him to receive the reward of your actions. O Prophet, give the believers good news of everlasting blessings that will surely please them when they meet their Lord. ولا تجعلوا الله عرضة لأيمانكم أن تبروا وتتقوا وتصلحوا بين الناس والله سميع عليم. Do not use the name of Allah in your oath as an excuse for not doing good. For example, being mindful of Him, being virtuous, and reconciling between people. Rather, if you have taken an oath not to do any good actions, then do good actions and make an expiation for the oath. Allah hears your statements, knows your actions, and will reward you for them accordingly. لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما كسبت قلوبكم والله غفور حليم. Allah will not take you to account for those oaths that you swear unintentionally, such as if someone says, Wallahi, no Wallahi, or yes by Allah. For such oaths there is no need to make any expiation nor any further consequences are there. However, He will take you to account for intentional oaths. Allah forgives and tolerates the sins of His slaves and does not hasten to send punishment. للذين يؤلون من نسائهم تربص 4 أشهر فإن فاءوا فإن الله غفور رحيم. For those who swear an oath not to have sexual intercourse with their wives, there is a waiting period no longer than 4 months, starting from the date of the oath. This is known as ilah, an oath of abstinence. And if he abandons the oath and engages in intimacy after having sworn not to, and this happens within the 4 months, then Allah forgives them Allah is merciful and has established expiation as a way out from such an oath. وَإِنْ عَزَمُوا الطَّلَاقَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. If such a man is determined to continue his oath and passes the 4-month period, intending by a divorce, then Allah hears their statements including the divorce, and He knows their states and intentions and will reward them accordingly. والمطلقات يتربصن بأنفسهن 3 قروء ولا يحل لهن أن يكتمن ما خلق الله في أرحامهن إن كن يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وبعولتهن أحق بردهن في ذلك إن أرادوا إصلاحا ولهن مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف وللرجال عليهن درجة والله عزيز حكيم. Divorced women must not remarry after a divorce until 3 menstrual periods have passed. If they are true in their faith in Allah and the last day, they may not hide the fetus that Allah has created in their wombs if they are pregnant. Their husbands who issued the divorce have the first right to recall them during the waiting period if they intend to live well with them and to cancel what has occurred because of the divorce. Wives have rights and obligations like husbands in a manner that people are accustomed to. Men have a higher rank than them regarding responsibility and divorce matters. Allah is mighty and nothing can overcome His decree. He is wise in His legislation and planning. الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان ولا يحل لكم أن تأخذوا مما آتيتموهن شيئا إلا أن يخافا أن لا يقيما حدود الله فإن خفتم ألا يقيما حدود الله فلا جناح عليهما فيما افتدت به تلك حدود الله فلا تعتدوها ومن يتعد حدود الله فأولئك هم الظالمون. The divorce after which a husband may recall his wife can only happen twice. He may divorce her the first time, call her back, divorce her again, and recall her again. After 2 divorces have occurred, he must either keep her in his marriage, living in a good way with her, or divorce her for the 3rd time, being good to her by fulfilling her rights. At the time of divorce, husbands may not take any part of the dowry that they had given their wives. However, if a woman is unhappy with her husband because of his character or looks, and the couple is of the view that because of this they will not be able to fulfill the rights of marriage, then they should present the matter to a person related to them or someone familiar with them. If they feel that the couple will not be able to fulfill their marital rights, then there is no harm if the woman offers to give something to the husband in return for a separation. These laws of the Sharia are the criterion for the lawful and unlawful, so do not overstep them. Whoever violates the limits of Allah with regard to the lawful and the unlawful, then such people are wronging their souls, bringing themselves to destruction, and exposing themselves to Allah's anger and punishment. فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ فإن طلقها فلا جناح عليهما أن يتراجعا إن ظنا أن يقيما حدود الله وتلك حدود الله يبينها لقوم يعلمون. If the husband divorces her for the third time, he may not remarry her until she gets married to another man in a valid marriage that is genuine and not merely contracted to make her lawful for the original husband, and where intimacy, where sexual intercourse has taken place. Should the second husband divorce her or pass away, then there is no sin upon the woman and her first husband for returning to one another with a new marriage contract and dowry if they think they will likely be able to fulfill one another's rights in accordance with the law. These laws are made clear by Allah for people who know His laws and limits, as they are the ones who benefit from them. Now, as we reflect over these verses, the theme of the surah now has shifted to relationships, and more specifically, marital relationships. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lays out that which is permissible and how husband and wife should deal with one another. And this theme is going to continue over the next 2 days as well. Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentions that إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ التَّوَّابِينَ وَيُحِبُّ الْمُتَطَهِّرِينَ, that Allah loves those individuals who constantly turn back to Him and repent. And He loves those individuals who take care of their cleanliness. They make sure that they take care of it in a way that is legislated by Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated marriage between man and woman. Now, this is not just a social contract, but it's a covenant before Allah. And if we understand it that way, then it changes the way that we approach it. That it's not just two people living together and can do whatever they want. But this is a covenant. It's a very strong contract, as He describes, ميثاقا غليظا, a strong covenant. And it has to be looked at that way, that there's rights and responsibilities that serves as a framework. And Allah has encouraged both individuals to show up at the level of ihsan, to live with one another in goodness, in kindness, in fairness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that women have rights similar to those over them, similar to the rights that the husbands have, according to what is fair. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi mentioned that the rights between spouses are not set by a fixed number, but are referred back to what is customary and fair, as the verse indicates. Now, what does that mean? It means that as our expectations increase in marriage, we have to learn how to make that marriage a reality, that we learn how to communicate. We learn what each other's needs and wants are, because I might need something, but my spouse might need something different. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said, I like to beautify myself for my wife just as I like my wife to beautify herself for me. And he quoted this verse, that if my spouse likes something, then I should do it for her. And if I like something, then she should do it for me as well. And this is where understanding each other's needs is very important, because then we know what we can do for them, rather than having to guess and not get it right. And this is also where love languages comes in, because the way that one person receives love can be different from the way the other person receives it. And many times we try to give, but it's not received in that manner, because the language is different. The one person is used to, for example, words of affirmation. They like hearing compliments. They like to be appreciated. But the other person is more acts of services, where they like when things are done, when they share responsibility. The people by nature are different. And this once again goes back to understanding the customs that's there in place. That's based on reality and not fantasy. Marriage is something that a person has to learn how to build a great relationship. That's not the default, that people get married and it's just going to be wonderful. But rather, it's something that we learn how to communicate, how to process emotions, how to deal with conflict, how to deal with misunderstandings, disagreements that's there. And by making dua and putting our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're able to build a great relationship. And the nature of relationships is that there is going to be disagreements. But when we learn how to handle them, we give ourselves a higher chance of succeeding. And Allah also highlights the limits of divorce. And He mentions that these are the limits set by Allah. that don't transgress them. To be fair is obligatory upon everyone. To be just and fair is an obligation upon every single person. There is never an excuse for anyone to transgress those limits, to be unfair, to be unjust, to be cruel to another individual. To go above and beyond that, that is ihsan. And the encouragement is to do our best, to try to be the best we can for one another. But Allah has set the limits at the same time, and He said, تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا. That those are the limits, so don't transgress them. If they're not getting along, their personalities are different, they don't see a way that this can be reconciled, that's fine. Allah has allowed divorce. And it's difficult to be in that predicament, that when there's disagreements, frustration, resentment, the ego takes over. The nafs al-ammara, the lower self, it takes over. And that part of us only wants to do what it wants. It wants to say, do whatever comes to their mind. And it's not really thinking of the greater good or the other individual that's there. But once again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminds us of the limits that's there, that a person has to first and foremost know what those limits are. Secondly, they have to be mindful of Allah. And you'll notice in the surah that Allah has mentioned multiple times, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا, that be mindful of Allah, have that awareness of Allah, and know. And He'll mention different things. He knows everything, that you're going to be meeting Him, that you're going to be resurrected in front of Him, that He is severe in punishment, that He is with those individuals who observe taqwa. And this is also where a person has to know their limits as well, that this is a covenant that we're going to be asked about. But the wise person knows what they can handle and doesn't take on commitments they cannot fulfill. Responsibility in marriage, or any relationship for that matter, is a trust that will be asked about on the Day of Judgment. So if it gets to a point where the disagreements are too much and it's leading to bad behavior and breaking the rules that Allah has set, then in this situation, despite getting professional help and trying their best to reconcile, then Allah has provided a way out. So as we walk away from today's episode, we want to reflect over the fact that relationships are nurtured. So what is one thing that I can do that will nurture my relationships? Whether it's with my spouse, my children, my siblings, my parents. Let's try to look at one thing that we can do that will nurture these relationships. May Allah bless us with good relationships. May He make our spouses, our children, the coolness of our eyes. May He protect our families and communities from negative influences. I'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.